Hell yeah, the Half-Life games. This critically acclaimed series is loved by every gamer with good tastes, and has received more awards than Taylor Swift. These games are indeed special, however, their boss fights kind of suck. Developing a good final boss fight, especially in a first-person shooter game, has always been a hard task for game designers. There usually are two paths a dev can follow: make the player spam its entire arsenal until the boss dies, or turn the boss fight into a mini puzzle that the player has to figure out, or else he will get forever stuck in a limbo. Of course, for the latter case, walkthroughs are always readily available at the press of an Alt tab. However, did you know that it is scientifically proved that watching a walkthrough to complete a game will dramatically lower your testosterone? So the final boss fight of Half-Life 1 might as well be a psyop by Valve to cripple the reproductory system of a whole generation of gamers. Cause I bet that a good 70% of first-time players just did not know what to do, like when you see a cute girl at a bar. Even freaking Dario Casali felt lost against Nihilanth, and he was one of the main level designers for Half-Life 1. Dario Casali approached the boss fight in the same way my 12-year-old ass did 15 years ago. Shoot the Nihilanth until it dies. 30 precious minutes of my life were wasted just like that, cause this final boss fight falls into the puzzle boss category, with a touch of platforming to keep the player engagement high. So yeah, after losing my patience, I decided to steal a glimpse of what I was supposed to do from a walkthrough, and after realizing that I first had to shoot the 3 crystals, I was like, great, now I have it all figured out. So I shot the crystals, but the ugliest Fedus didn't die. I was just about to open fire on his face when this baby prodigy of a boss teleported me inside a uterus-looking room. What the hell? Nowadays, I'm a master at platforming, but back then, reaching the top of this alien cave while having to break Gordon's neck to shoot the alien controllers coming from the top was quite the climb. After many attempts, I managed to get back to the main cesspool, only to get blasted away by a volley of high-damaging spheres. Yeah, the Nihilanth doesn't mess around, he's not just annoying, but quite deadly too. I kept shooting at this big-headed abomination, but nothing. Sometimes he would open his head, but still, I was lost. Some of the trampolines were made in China, cause they couldn't make me fly high enough to reach the Nihilanth rotten brain, and since this cave it's like the Mona Lisa, cause it doesn't matter from which angles you look at it, the cave always looks the same and the Nihilanth always stares back, so I struggled a lot to find the right trampoline that propelled me high enough to unload a barrage of MP5 grenades inside the deformed cranium of this child that neither a mother could love. Finally, I made it. I sat there with a big grin on my face while admiring the fireworks. Dopamine was flooding my entire body and I could finally brag to my friends that I had beaten a 10-year-old very difficult game. They didn't care and thought I was autistic. You see, although the Nihilanth boss fight can be a little bit cryptic and the platforming in the 3 rooms is annoying for first-time players, it's still a rewarding fight to beat. It is indeed rough around the edges, and apparently it was created in less than a week, which explains why I can't give this Half-Life 1 boss fight more than a 7 out of 10. I was actually expecting to fight the G-Man, Perhaps a mechanically enhanced version of him, and I was really looking forward to kick G-Man's creepy ass, but no, perhaps we will be able to do so in Half-Life 3. Time to move on to the final boss of Opposing Force, and I bet you don't remember his name. It's the Gene Worm, a giant Race X beast that resembles a fusion between the Half-Life 1 tentacle and a very fat Karen. One thing I always found odd is the girly and pinkish portal he comes from. Why so feminine? Is he homo? Or perhaps he's a she? Well, who cares? Shepard is here to kill this monstrosity, not to fuck. But I digressed. The Gene Worm is overall less deadly and less annoying than the Nihilanth. His attacks consist in emitting toxic gases from his mouth instead of his ass, but Shepard got his iconic gas mask on, so this type of attack won't damage him too much. The Gene Worm's second attack is a bit scarier, as he likes to slam his tentacles down like the big crybaby he is. Womp womp, he also likes to wail a lot. Similarly to the Nihilanth, the Gene Worm too is a sort of puzzle type of boss, although the steps the player has to follow are much more intuitive. Two turrets are providentially positioned on the upper sides of the room, and they clearly point towards the beast's yellowy eyes. Yeah, the Gene Worm should keep his alcoholism on check. That must be jaundice right there. After hitting both of his eyes, he will reveal his purplish entrails, tempting our desperate Adrian Shepard into doing stuff he won't be too proud of after the post-nut clarity kicks in. Poor Shepard has been sleeping inside a barrack full of dudes for God knows how long, and then he got sent to Black Mesa where there are almost zero bitches, less than in a STEM class. So yeah, Shepard, you do you have my support, brother. The Gene Worm will prove to be a big son of a gun, cause after you hit it, he will destroy the bridge that connects the two opposite platforms. This means that to reach the turret on the right, we will have to deal with this rope that's limpier than your grandpa dick, and it also always gets me stuck in the geometry.
Bruh.
Shoot the Gene Worm fatty liver thrice, and he will gladly retreat from the pool of lean he came from. This is the moment when Shepard screams aloud, but his gas mask covers his voice. That's why us players can never hear it. Overall, I would give the Gene Worm a 6 out of 10. Fighting him is kind of awkward, just like his sexuality, because at the end of the day, this boss is more of a movement challenge than a shooting one, and using that flashy rope to navigate around the arena is awkward as fuck. But even though I hate the rope, I love the vibe of this chamber. The greenish and teal color palette make it really chill, and the exam pool are just inviting you to bathe there and smoke a blunt. Now let's quickly mention the epic Blue Shift final fight before moving on to Half-Life Decay. Yeah, not much of a final boss fight here, which is a bit of a bummer, cause in my opinion, one big final fight it's always needed at the end of a game. And I don't know about you, but the sectioning scene where Barney has to protect the research equipment from all these spawning enemies feels more like a final fight than this one against a bunch of marines and 2 Houndies. I rate this fight 3 out of 10. Poor Barney got the shorter end of the stick. At least he's the only one who makes it home safe.
Thanks to you, however, we were actually able to pull off this idea. We made it, Mr. Calhoun. We made it.
On to Decay, quite an interesting one. The initial phase of this boss fight is similar to the Xen section in Blue Shift. There is a piece of machinery, a so-called displacement beacon, that Jean and Colette must defend from a bunch of Vortigons and later on alien grunts. This starting phase kinda resembles the test chamber sequence because a scientist will order us to turn on a couple of levers if we don't want to die. And I don't know if it's Dr. Rosenberg or Dr. Keller giving us orders. What I do know is that Dr. Keller and his stupid wheelchair are one big fraud, since, as we can see from this animation, he can clearly get up and walk. What an asshole. Now, after all 3 crystals have been powered up by the machine, the true final boss spawns. And it's a freaking manta ray. I always wanted to fight one of these creatures back in Half-Life 1, and I love that Decay gives us a chance to slay one of these mysterious beasts. The Xenian WWF won't be too happy about this. The stingray behavior is pretty simple. In fact, all it does is fly around and spawn more secondary enemies. This boss is a chill guy. Hit it 6 times with an RPG and watch it crumble down into big chunks of meat. A true delicacy for meat lovers. Overall, Decay's final boss fight isn't anything to write home about. The only cool part is actually getting to fight a manta ray. So I would give this fight a 5.5 out of 10, cause it's nothing too exciting. Still better than Blue Shift of course, and way better than the next boss fight I'm going to review. Oh man, it's finally time to talk shit about Half-Life 2 final boss fight, my favorite pastime. A lot of words full of praise have been spent to homage the final moments of Half-Life 2, but I believe that many players have been blinded by all the plot twists and the emotivity of the cutscene before this fight, thus never realizing how bad the actual fight is. I will still give credits to Valve for crafting a spot-on atmosphere for this final fight.
Nice.
Gordon is standing at the top of the Citadel, the whole CD-17 is extending before our eyes, the skies are burning with just the right tonality of orange to paint the perfect apocalyptic picture for this whole ordeal, and Dr. Breen is busy cosplaying Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man. So yeah, everything is perfectly set up for a promising and epic final fight. However, when the actual fight comes, I can't help but feel very underwhelmed by it. Why so? It's because at the end of the day, what we are actually fighting are 2 dumb gunships and, after that, an even dumber rotating shield. Sure, the situation is very tense, Gordon is on a timer and we must destroy the Dark Fusion Reactor core before the whole Citadel blows up, and so you, the player, must hurry up. However, hitting the 2 gunships from a distance with the energy bolts is not reliable at all, which feels pretty frustrating cause we are on a timer. The issue is that the 2 gunships are flying way too far for our gravity gun reach. One slight movement and they will avoid your very slow energy bolt projectile. So my problem with it is that hitting the gunships only comes down to luck. Also, there is not a lot of cover to protect yourself from the pulse rifle volleys of fire, making the fight even more annoying on hard difficulty. But I have developed a pretty efficient strategy to beat this boss fight effortlessly, and as you can see, this tactic is lame as hell, just like this boss fight. It consists in standing still next to the energy bolts tubes and spamming your right mouse button in a way the dinosaurs from Puzzle Bubble could never afford to do. After destroying the gunship, you can even close your eyes while spamming energy bolts away cause the rotating shields are just laying there to get hit. Not an engaging boss fight at all in terms of game mechanics. Also, creativity-wise, it's pretty bad too. It's not as if we hadn't had the pleasure of meeting the gunships already, or to use the supercharged gravity gun in more inventive ways than here. so this final fight doesn't offer anything new, aside from Dr. Breen begging Gordon for mercy. That's always cool. At least the Nihilanth was an original creature specifically developed to be the final boss, and even though fighting him is a bit awkward, at least it feels like a proper boss fight. Half-Life 2 Final Fight instead feels more like an epilogue than a proper first-person shooter boss fight, so yeah, to me Half-Life 2 Final Fight will forever stink, and I give it a 4 out of 10, at least it's better than Episode 1's. Much like Blue Shift, Half-Life 2 Episode 1 doesn't really feature a boss fight at all, and it's even less original than Half-Life 2's. If fighting gunships was a bore, imagine having to fight waves of combines while escorting NPCs that seem to have gotten dumber just to make this fight more tedious.
Get out of there, it's gonna blow!
And to fight a single strider after that. What a special final fight. The only saving grace here is that navigating through the train yard area is somewhat fun. However, the fight itself against the Strider is just unexciting. Fighting Striders in general is a slog, cause the repetitiveness of finding cover to avoid their attacks and picking out to shoot a rocket over and over again gets old fast. Thankfully, we only have to fight one Strider, cause I already had enough of them from the Follow Freeman chapter. So yeah, Half-Life 2 Episode 1 final boss fight, it's tied with Blue Shift. Complete trash. The same Dario Casali, in the 20th anniversary documentary, hints at how poorly the combat against the Strider is structured in Half-Life 2 and Episode 1, cause it's only about spamming rockets and finding cover. Casali makes this statement while commenting the final fight of Half-Life 2 Episode 2, which, as we all know, involves many more Striders than just one. So I'm supposed to hate this fight, right? But no. Episode 2 Final Fight, even though it doesn't feature a new original monster specifically created to be the final boss, it's a blast to play through. And the best part is that Valve came up with a fun idea to destroy these Striders. Launching the Magnusson device with your gravity gun feels great, it's like scoring a 3-pointer in basket, and having to shoot them to detonate them adds another layer of complexity to the fight. And asking the players to be precise with their weapons in a first-person shooter game is quite a fair request from the developer's part. And it's a challenge I will take any day over the Half-Life 2 final boss fight, where all I do is spam junk around. Also, in this Episode 2 final fight, the feeling of being on a timer becomes a lot more concrete, cause instead of an artificial clock ticking down, we now have to protect these huts before these Striders annihilate them, which adds some much needed tension to this conclusive fight. The freshly introduced and very welcome hunters appear in this final stage too, and they can be a nuisance if you don't pay enough attention, cause you won't notice that these fuckers are hardwired to destroy all the Magnusson device attached to their chattier and taller Strider counterparts. Hence, prioritizing the hunters is a must if you don't wanna curse the name of Gaben our savior out of frustration. Although the hunters can be annoying, we can break their fragile ego, life and chicken legs by running over them at full throttle with our muscle car. Had they not skipped the leg day, they would have survived the impact for sure. I also need to praise the great job Valve did in terms of world building. The whole Strider attack really feels unexpected, and watching the resistance forces coming together for one last effort to repel the combined forces is just epic. This final struggle is also pretty intense and challenging, as any final stage should be, and so hearing the cries of joy of the rebels after successfully protecting the silo feels even more rewarding. Moreover, Wet Forest is a goated location, it's just impossible to hate on this enchanting setting. How would I rate the Half-Life 2 Episode 2 final fight then? In terms of gameplay, I believe it's the best in the series.
Yes. Look at this, it's perfect!
However, since it can't be considered a proper boss fight, cause there is no real final boss like the Nihilanth entity or the Gene Worm, I can't give it an higher score than the 7 out of 10 I gave to the Nihilanth. So episode 2 rating is 7 out of 10, tied at the top of the scoreboard with the Half-Life 1 final boss fight. Following that, we have the opposing force Gene Worm, rated 6 out of 10. After that, we got the cute Manta from Decay with a 5 out of 10. Following that comes the very sad and insufficient final Half-Life 2 fight with a 4 out of 10, and the Blue Shift and Half-Life 2 Episode 1 are tied at the bottom cause they're both pretty trashy. Maybe Episode 1 is a bit better. So, for all the dear viewers who stuck until the end of this video, do you agree with my ratings, or do you think I treated Half-Life 2 a bit too harshly? Let me know in the comments. Goodbye, and like and subscribe if you like the video.